Mark your calendars for WSFI's second annual Fulton J. Sheen Award. Please join us at our fundraiser on Saturday, April 30 at the Lincolnshire Marriott Resort. Champagne and hors d'oeuvre reception is at 4:30 p.m. with dinner and program at 5:30 p.m. Our keynote speaker and award recipient is His Eminence Raymond Leo Cardinal Burke, renowned worldwide as a faithful and stalwart defender of the faith. To sponsor this event or to obtain tickets, go to WSFIradio.org or call Angela at 224-206-8455. That's WSFIradio.org or Angela at 224-206-8455.
Well, I've come to love that music. It's music to my ears. I look forward every month to this show. It's my favorite. It is the U.S. Grace Force with Father Richard Heilman and Doug Barry. I am your humble host, Angela Tomlinson. And if I write a book, it's going to be called Stumbling Around Greatness, because that's what I do for the next hour. I stumble around the greatness that's here. Welcome to the show, Father, and welcome, Doug.
Thank you, Angela.
Great to be here, Angela.
Yes, and for those of you who aren't familiar, I can't imagine anyone not being familiar with him, but Father Richard Heilman, in addition to initiating the U.S. Grace Force with Doug Barry, he is the pastor of St. Mary of Pine Bluff, Catholic Church in Wisconsin. He is the creator of the Combat Rosary. He's the initiator of one of my favorites, the Coast to Coast Rosary, founder of Roman Catholic Man, the author of the Church Militant Field Manual, as well as 5 other books. And he is a leader with Cardinal Burke of the Catholic men's movement called the Holy League, among many other things. Doug Barry is, in addition to being a devoted husband and father of 5, he's the founder and director of Radix, which is a Catholic ministry. He is an international speaker as well as national speaker. He is on EWTN Battle Ready. I believe it's on Monday evening.
Yes.
Is that right, Doug? Yes.
Yep. Last I heard.
Last you heard. And I joined the Battle Ready Coalition, and it's the best money I ever spent. I'm having the best Lent I've ever had between the 2 things that you've come up with, the Peace Through Strength and
Me
the Battle
too.
Ready. So thank you. So how's your Lent going, Father?
Amazing. And you mentioned Doug's Battle Ready thing. I'm down like, I think 35 pounds since New Year's, but I've been at it with him since last year and lifting weights and just feeling really good. Thank you, Doug. And also we're prepping. Now we're prepping because there's stuff coming. We can talk about that if you want.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, I feel like it was a Holy Spirit inspiration, but I came up with what we call 90 Days to Peace. And I just discerned that we just got beat up in the last 2 years. The brutal, tyrannical mob or whatever we want to call them. It's just been brutal. And I personally feel that we made it easy for them to enter, for evil to proceed because, and I've been using the quote from Ronald Reagan, we maintain the peace through our strength. Weakness only invites aggression. And I think we're weak. And I think, and I think that the remnant has to step up. But I think the remnant has to tweak ourselves a little bit here, because I think the remnant is doing really, really good with religion. So they're going to mass and they're following the sacraments and devotions and stuff. But I've been contending that we're not getting close in a divine intimacy. So that's what this 90 Days to Peace is about, is that we're taking time and we're locking in on our best practices of our Catholic faith. So we're getting they call it 2190 in psychology, but 21 days to establish a habit and 90 days to get it entrenched. So we're getting that. But the biggest thing, and this is what we're doing every day with this journal that I put together here. This is it right here. The Peace Through Strength journal. is we're asking people to take 15 minutes, just stop, because I contend that our idol is our rat race, our treadmill of life. We're locked into that. And to take a whole 15 minutes, Father, I can hear people saying it right now. A whole 15 minutes for me to stop from my treadmill. And so we got to look at that, because that becomes our idol when it has priority over God. But just to stop, and I've been using Martha and Mary. So Martha and Jesus in Martha and Mary's house, but Martha's out in the kitchen and she's just another guy, no big deal. But Mary's right at his feet and she's locked into his face. She's listening to every word. So she's doing what's called mental prayer, and that's what we've been promoting over this Lent, and it's gone awesome. It's really gone well. We blew through 10,000 journals. We don't have any left, so you got to wait till May to get another journal if you want one. But
I love it. I love
yeah.
it. The prayers that you do at the beginning of when you sit down in that prayer journal, you have an introductory prayer, and that's when you pour your heart out to God.
Yes.
And then you have now you listen to God speak to you.
Yep.
And then you have a closing prayer. Yep. I don't know, Father, if you want to just take a minute and just read that beautiful introductory prayer. Just melted my heart.
Hold on, let me get her open. It goes, here's the preparatory prayer. And this is pretty ancient, because mental prayer goes back centuries. And all the great saints would use mental prayer. So it goes like this: my Lord and my God. First of all, I want to say that I've come to believe that getting people to say that, especially as we're worshiping God at Mass, to cry out, my Lord and my God, is the most important thing I do as a priest. All right, so I'll start again. My Lord and my God, I firmly believe that you are here, that you see me, that you hear me. I adore you with profound reverence. I ask your pardon for my sins and the grace to make the time of prayer fruitful. My Immaculate Mother, Saint Joseph, my Father and Lord, my guardian angel, intercede for me. Amen. Isn't that beautiful? And then it concludes with this: I thank you, my God, for the good resolutions, affections, and inspirations that you have communicated to me in this meditation. I ask your help to put them into effect. My Immaculate Mother, Saint Joseph, my Father and Lord, my guardian angel, intercede for me. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. And then at the bottom is just a little checkbox. I don't know if you can see that, probably not, but it's a little checkbox, and just you want to make sure that you do these real basic practices. Wake up, morning offering, that takes 30 seconds. To do the Angelus, that takes 90 seconds. To pray the Rosary, and then bedtime prayer. For me, bedtime prayer is just saying, Dad, how did I do? I think I messed up over here and I won't do it tomorrow. Or were you proud of me, Dad? What did I do good? And just take 3 or 4 minutes to do that before you go to bed, and you're good. Is that beautiful? You get that entrenched, and Father Ripperger and his Liber Christo team says that takes care of 80% of people who feel like they're being tormented by the devil. Awesome.
You're going to laugh, but I have been calling it in my mind, because it is so busy.
Yeah.
And I call it my PJ time. Like, when you're going to bed and you have a hot cup of cocoa, I call it like prayer journal time. Oh. So I bribe myself. I say, okay, Angela.
You must wear PJs too, because you got to make it.
It has experience. But it has that.
That's that perfect.
Effect.
I love it.
Yeah.
I might steal that.
By all means. So Doug, we wanted to talk, we're going around the curve now. We're at the end of Lent. We're wondering, okay, if we messed up, is there still time? And then also, how do you make sure you don't fall back for the things that you're trying to change? And take it like maybe beyond the 40 days for the things that we've been able to conquer this Lent.
Doug, you go first. I've been blabbering all the time.
Oh no, yeah, man. Your wisdom is always amazing, as we all know and love, and I mean that sincerely. No, and that's true. I mean, what Father has come up with this prayer journal, and just the simplicity, the very basically easily, simply grounded approach that Father takes in really all of his preaching, but in this journal is I just think fantastic. And so many people have commented so positively about it. Thanks be to God. It's just amazing. But, you know, the idea of Lent, you know, what we did with Battle Ready Coalition is we tried to focus on a couple key things. And it's funny because as you try to focus on the spiritual aspect of Lent, you can't deny that there are things in the world happening that have never happened before. You know, as Father mentioned, we've been beat up the last couple of years by the power-hungry tyrants out there on many different levels, and the fear factor was ramped up to just off the charts. And then they jumped when people stopped falling into certain areas of fear that they were feeding us with the virus, and we started finding out that there were lies that were being told. A lot of us believed that along the way, but it became very apparent. Yeah, they backed off on that. Now all we hear is the possibility of food shortages. Actually, not possibility, that's happening. And we're hearing about, you know, for example, as we record this right now today, it was reported in the last day or two that in Germany, food prices have jumped up between 20 and 50%. So we know that this is happening. Puerto Rico, I think the same thing. Portugal, I mean, places like this, it's starting to happen. Talk of World War III. Now we're seeing video out there of these horrible Russian crimes that they're saying. Now, I'm not saying that hasn't happened, but we know that there's a lot of manipulation going on across the board in our media. We saw that the way President Trump was treated, and so forth and so forth and so on and so on. So you bring that into the Lent that we're dealing with right now, and you're scratching your head thinking, Lord, I want to get close to you, and yet I'm afraid with inflation and food prices and the possibility of World War III and the talk of cyber attacks and the power grid. What in the world do we do? Yeah. But I think that this is all the more reason to do exactly what Father said. We have to be grounded in that Martha Mary moment. We have to take those moments where we are just at the feet of Christ. And then we know that he will inspire us and move us to good, holy, appropriate action. Right. But that has to follow the deep prayer. It was St. Jose Maria Escriva who said deep prayer first and then heroic action, or maybe I added heroic, I don't know, but he says prayer first and action is second.
He should have said heroic.
Yeah, let's say he did. Yeah, he was a pretty cool guy. Yeah. So deep prayer first, heroic action second, but yes, heroic action must be part of the equation.
Right.
So I just think this Lent has been really challenging, and Father and I, with our U.S. Grace Force podcast and with, you know, this show and other things, we're just constantly trying to figure out ways to reach people at that very basic, natural level that we're all on. I mean, we wake up in the morning and, you know, people they want to feed their kids. They want to get to work. They want to make sure they can put gas in the car. They want to make sure that they can just pay their bills. They want to make sure they can live a good, decent life. And there's just a lot of things that are really challenging that in a very different way than we've ever been challenged before.
And you had that online meeting, I think, the other night where people were giving you feedback. Was there anything that stood out about Lent?
Oh, yeah, we do. Yeah, we do. Actually, we're doing 5 a month now. We do 3 we do 3 with Battle Ready Coalition, and then we have another course called the Battle Ready Emergency Preparedness Course. And if anybody's interested, you could go to brcoalition.com, brcoalition.com, and you can find it. Yeah, and this course is a one-time buy, and it gives you direction, guidance. There's over 4 hours of video. There's checklists. There's all kinds of instruction.
You're with a bunch of battle buddies.
Oh yeah, you're with your friends. Father's he's our unofficial, because we haven't had a bishop appoint him, but he's our unofficial BR Coalition, Battle Ready Coalition chaplain.
I'm in the meantime.
You're an interim.
But, you know, in this course, we address food, water, shelter, defense, and medical. And we're trying to help people find these all through the lens of the Catholic faith, through the lens of faith and prayer and truth. And so in that, we're doing 2 Zoom live or basically live video courses a month. We've upped it. We were just doing 1, and now we decided we just got to start doing 2 because we want to reach the people more frequently. And the feedback that we're getting, Angela, is a lot of what I just said. I mean, these are already pretty good people. As Father always says, we've got pretty good people who are following Grace Force. You know, they're pretty faithful Catholics to begin with. We all have our bumps in the road, no question. But you know, normally people who are following, you know, what Father and I are trying to do are people who are pretty much already on the right direction, at least. But the number one concern is, what do I do if the power goes out? What do I do with regards to storing up food?
Right.
How do I grow a garden? How do I learn how to build community, which is so critically important for the spiritual support, for the encouragement, and for the natural? What can we all bring to the table to help each other get through any type of crisis, natural disaster to civil unrest to a war? What can we bring together? And people are asking over and over now, all these things and more. What do I do to move forward with this? Because a lot of people are really waking up to the reality that this isn't conspiracy theory. This is conspiracy fact, and it's unfolding very quickly in front of us right now.
Well, it's almost you're building this virtual family.
Mm.
Where that's how I'm a big Italian family, and we all used to pitch in, or I can do this, or I could do that, or what we've learned, and do referrals, and how do you do this and that. You're kind of building this Catholic family that can be a resistance against things that I guess the globalists plan on throwing at us. Is that what they are?
Well, and on that point, I'll just say this real quick, Father, and then let you comment on it too, is we just did a podcast. It was supposed to go up yesterday, and we found out that YouTube has decided to go back into our library of episodes, and they found one from almost a year ago. And so they gave us another strike. So they are now telling us we cannot upload for 4 months on YouTube. So I spent yesterday and most of today getting a Rumble account kind of cleaned up and tweaked. And so we've got this particular video up on Rumble, along with a couple others. And I've got more that I'll be uploading over the next week. Some old episodes we're going to be getting up. But we got to encourage people to go out to Rumble and look up US Grace Force and put a space, no spaces between it, US Grace Force, spell it all out as one word, and you'll find it. And this video we just did with Father Mike Leitner is phenomenal.
I love him. Tell us about that.
Oh, Father, I'll let you go first on this, because I thought this was an amazing program this time with Father Leitner.
Well, we were looking for a guest at this time. I mean, Doug and I had just been crazy busy, but Father Leitner just called me the other day and started talking to me about this particular podcast. But it's been talked about around. But this guy really laid out just point by point by point. First of all, that we're going to have a food shortage, but here's why. And he now don't ask me to, repeat the whole thing, but it has to do with the food supply that we get from our fertilizer that we get from like Russia and other things that we get from Ukraine, and how that's going to raise the price of things like fertilizer and other things, and so anyways, it's just like a domino effect that's happening. And Father Leitner is like, he's to the point where it's pretty much inevitable at this point, and so we really should be talking about prepping it. But he was actually talking about how it would be great for the Catholic Church to lead the way in that. What they had in World War II was called victory gardens, and he actually coined a pretty good term called Our Lady of Victory Gardens.
Yeah,
which from the Battle of Lepanto, the original name of Our Lady of the Rosary. But wouldn't that be good? And he was really, and I'm with him. Mm-hmm. But that we should start thinking about that we should start growing our own food out in our backyard or whatever. And in case it gets really bad, or but also to feed your own family. And he was saying we need to get a movement going within the Catholic Church, because throughout history, when people were starving, they went to the Catholic Church and said, can you feed us? And so we got to be ready to be able to say, yes, we can.
Well, and this goes back really, and we've brought this up, Angela, in several of our shows, our episodes, is, you go back to the Old Testament when God revealed to the world through a dream that Pharaoh had, that Joseph of the Old Testament interpreted. There were going to be 7 years of famine after 7 years of just bounty. So what was the plan? I say this in all respect to everybody out there who says we're just going to trust Jesus but not take steps to prepare naturally.
Yeah.
Joseph took 7 years to prep, to prepare for this drought, this famine that was very, very clearly noted in a dream. Now, you got to imagine the people at the time, if you'd have had the major news networks back there talking about this, it would be something along the lines of, well, this man Joseph is saying that Pharaoh had a dream, and based on the dream, air quotes, we're going to take measures of grain and wheat and food from everybody around the land of Egypt for the next 7 years. Boy, this sounds crazy, doesn't it? It's from a dream, and yet it all happened. And because he did it, all the people in Egypt and outside, all the other provinces came there. And the famous quote, Ite ad Yosef, go to Joseph, right? Which we adopt today for the New Testament, St. Joseph. But here you have God working through a man and a dream, pointing out a natural disaster that was coming and telling them you need to prepare on a natural level. That should be enough for us. Not to mention, we could mention Noah. Not to mention, we can mention our Lord Jesus when he says, you see the signs of the times, why don't you prepare? You see the clouds one night, you know it's going to rain the next day, and so forth and so forth. We should be taking very seriously. Right. Also, in addition to that, the 7 corporal works of mercy begin with feed the hungry, give drink to the thirsty. We can't do it if we don't have it. And in a crisis, we need to have even a little bit more. And our Lord in Matthew chapter 25 makes clear that our salvation actually depends upon even these corporal works of mercy, because what you do to the least of my brothers or don't do, you do or don't do to me. And that determined the goats and the sheep going to heaven or hell. So really, this is pretty serious that we take the steps necessary. And Father's right. And I've given talks all over the country for years and was mocked and ridiculed a lot by some, like, yeah, this guy's nuts. Well, you just quote Marian prophecies. This stuff's clearly stated that something's coming. Well, here we see it unfolding. But I would tell priests all over the country, Father, they will come to your door because they're going to want diapers and formula and food. Yeah. When they can't find it anywhere else, they'll come to you. So when you got good priests like Father Leitner, Father Heilman, and other good priests that are out there, and I know some that are actually prepping, and they're prepping for themselves and their parishioners. They want to be ready to help. Right. That's a wise and charitable thing to do.
You know, Mother Angelica, when she was alive, I don't know if you're aware of that, but she was committed to growing her own food. She prophesied that there'd be a famine, and she was buying land in at EWTN for this. Wow. So, and she had that gift of prophecy, as did Fulton Sheen. But I mean, so there you go, the handwriting's on the wall.
Doug and I have a running joke that he's the comics guy and I'm the little kid, naive guy. And, but really? I'm becoming more the comments guy. He's
well, there's always.
But the joke is Doug is responsible in that, you know, we don't know, but you know, just in case, and it's looking pretty much like it is. Let's get ready. And what does that look like? What does preparing look like? And can we work on that together? Because there's a lot of people out there that are asking that question. Okay, then what do we do? And with Battle Rally Coalition, it really answers all those questions. So please, everyone, if you want to learn how to prepare like that and lose 38 pounds, you know, but yeah. But anyways, it's really, really good. But
how about our souls? You know, we're coming into Easter. I have to ask this question: is there a certain character that we'll read about next week that you identify with? You know, for example, I identify with, of course, I'd love to be Veronica or Mary, but I don't have her courage. Is there someone there, St. Peter,
John the Beloved,
that you identify with? Who?
John the Beloved.
Oh, really? St. John the Evangelist? What did you like about him?
He's always pictured at the foot of the cross when all the other bishops bolted. You know, they were first bishops. And you know, we saw him later where they were hiding out in the upper room behind a locked door. And I always frame it this way, that Jesus said, I'm tired of your obstacles. I'm coming through the locked door, and you're getting this Holy Spirit whether you like it or not, you know. Anyways, but then he took care of Mary, and I feel like John also represents us, you know. Behold your mother, you know, behold your son, when Jesus was on the cross. And I think we were meant to take Mary into our you know, our home, so to speak. And so I have when I preach on Sunday, if you ever watch, there's a John Beloved statue right behind me, And I've been really pointing to him too throughout this whole 2 years, and especially calling out us spiritual leaders. I think first bishops, but also us priests. But unfortunately, if the priests speak out, then they get canceled. But we've got to stand with Christ, and we're not. We're bolting. We're hiding away in silent self-protection, because evil is just coming in like somebody, pulled their finger from the dike. It's flooding in, and we're like that, the first apostles, where they're resting in the garden, and they bolted. They got out of there as quick as they could, and then they use this narrative too. Well, if we say anything, then that's divisive, and I'm like Jesus wasn't divisive. What do you think? I've come for peace? No, I've come for division. Father against son, some mother against daughter. He said that, and he was that. Today's every reading you see leading up to Holy Week right now, he's calling out people. He says, if I did that, I'd be like you liars. I think that was in today's gospel, right? You bunch of liars. So he's not afraid to call people out. And we've got him painted as this effeminate hippie, that only says nice things. And I don't know. I'm rambling, but John the Beloved, because he's like, come at me, bro. Go ahead and kill me. I'm staying at the foot of the cross. I love that.
Where did he get the courage?
What's that?
Where did he get that courage to stay?
I know.
He was a member of the Battery Coalition, I think.
I thought you were going to say Our Lady at the foot of the cross. Didn't you mention Doug? Didn't you have something?
Well, she being the mother of the Battery Coalition, that only makes sense. Nice. No, in fact, I would say, when I would do I don't do it anymore, but for about 26, 27 years, I did this one-man drama of the Passion around the country.
Famous.
And I was just incredibly humbling to have the chance to do it in churches. And we had confessions afterwards. Thanks be to God. A lot of just beautiful, beautiful moments. Again, thanks be to God. But one of the statements I would bring into the meditation as I'm kind of acting out the different characters is John standing at the foot of the cross, and that the only reason he had the strength to be there is because he clung to Mary.
Nice.
He knew that if he stood by her side, he would have the strength to stay at the foot of the cross. Is somewhat how I would word it at times. And, you think about that, and she was the only, there were others there, but there was no question. She was staunch. She was immovable. She was not leaving that moment. She would be there by her son, no matter what, no questions asked. And John knew this. And so if we are wise enough to realize without her, I'm not going to be able to make it through these things. That's why, of course, co-redemptrix, her role as a co-redemptrix and so forth, so important. You mentioned characters to identify with, and sadly, I feel bad because it's easy to fall into being the crowd along the street that either turns a blind eye and doesn't really want to engage, doesn't want to step in like Veronica, doesn't want to step in like Simon. I love it when St. John Paul II said that Simon the Cyrene had no idea that he was actually assisting. God was letting him. He was assisting in the salvation and the redemption of mankind. And Simon didn't realize that at the time. We don't realize when we offer up our cross and united to Jesus that we can assist in some aspect of the salvation that God wants to, dispense to the world. But often I can find myself as the guy in the crowd over there, when the guy cuts me off on the road or something, and I'm the guy, come on, you dummy, what are you doing driving like that? Being impatient. It's the crowd that mocks, that gets distracted, that looks over the crowd and says, oh, what's going on? None of my business, and walks away. Or the soldiers that are driving the whip onto him. I hate to say it, but I know myself that I unfortunately identify with those characters as well. I want to identify with the Veronicas, the Simon, and of course John at the foot of the cross. But it's a tough one. I also want to identify with the good thief and not the bad thief. And yet,
what was the difference? What do you think psychologically was the difference between the two?
Well, the first thing that comes to my mind immediately is self-absorption and just kind of centered on oneself. I'm suffering, Lord, fix my suffering. Why don't you prove it? If you're such a great God, why don't you step in and stop this food shortage stuff? Why don't you change who's in the White House? Why did you let the election get to whatever, why this, Lord? Why aren't our spiritual leaders stronger and holier and so forth? Lord, fix the problem. And then, of course, the other thief just in all humility says, leave him alone. He doesn't deserve this. We do. And so the psychology I've identified between the two is self-absorption or humility, acknowledging my responsibility for my sin. And that doesn't make sense in a lot of areas. I still struggle with, why young children are caught up into sex trafficking, for example. It's not their fault. Why are these things allowed? There are questions that are beyond us to understand. I realize that. But these moments have got to be so incredibly powerful in the battle between good and evil, or there wouldn't be such a consequence of Christ dying on the cross. It's something that is, I think, St. Therese, who said there are some mysteries of God you shouldn't even try to describe with words because they are beyond words. And some of these mysteries of suffering and the crucifixion and our own personal suffering are really, I think, bound up in, if there's going to be understanding or any sort of endurance to be gained to get through them, back to what Father said earlier about the Martha Mary moment. Just get to his feet and just be there. Even if you can't say a word, just be there. Let him impart some sort of grace or courage or strength that allows you to endure that moment. It's just, I'm rambling too. So
you're not rambling. I'm listening to everything.
No, it's awesome.
But these are mysteries I know we're all struggling with to some degree. Why does God allow this? Why does he allow that? Our friend Dan Schneider, Father, we've had him on several times in the podcast, and he'll just say, look, don't ask why all the time. Just say, I've got to use this to get holy.
Right.
And let God transform me somehow and just be the soldier that fights. I don't know why God puts me in this area of the battle or this area of the battle, but he's got me here. And I've got to operate with what he's given me. And I got to operate in the time and the space that he's given me to be in. And I've got to do it with the best of my ability. And I'll say this real quick too, and then I'll stop rambling on here. And that's this. My wife shared this with me. She's on this Lenten journey she's going through in her own prayer and meditation. And she came to me and she'd read, and I forget which saint it was, but renew yourself, even if you have to do it every day, every hour, every 5 minutes. Lord, I have fallen. Okay, you know what? I'm picking myself back up by your grace, brushing myself off, and I'm getting back in. Okay, yeah, but I really blew it again. Okay, then 5 minutes later, I'm going to pick back up, I'm going to renew, and I'm going to keep going again. It's just develop that perseverance of, even if it's every minute, you get back up and keep moving forward. That is emphasized in the carrying of the cross, that he falls 3 times and he keeps getting back up. He never, ever, ever stays down. So get back up, even if it's every 5 minutes.
That's awesome. Can I share my story? My Holy Week story?
I'd love that.
Every time this comes around, every time Holy Week comes around, I always think about this, because back in 2014, my nephew got sick. Okay. But then he started to get really sick. And so they brought him to the hospital. Then he started to get really sick. It turns out he had H1N1 and it hit him very, very hard. So hard that they had to put him on what's called an ECMO machine. Now, people in the medical field might know what that means. But actually it turns out, and this is part of the whole, God incident thing, is the doctor that invented the ECMO machine, his son was my nephew's best friend. And his name was, get this, Dr. Love. Okay, so he's on this Dr. Love ECMO machine. And in order for it to work properly, you have to thin the blood, so blood thinners. So he's on it, and it's not looking good. And they have to make him unconscious, whatever. But he was out of it. And so our whole family is up there because it was super, super serious. Well, then it's getting toward Holy Week, and he starts to bleed internally from all the blood thinners.
Oh.
And the doctor brings my sister, his mom, into his office along with their other daughter and husband. And he tells them, listen, it's not good. We got to take him off the blood thinners, or he's going to bleed to death. And if we do, it's going to clog the ECMO machine, and that's saving his life right now. So it's a lose-lose situation. They told her there's about a 0.5% chance he'll survive, which they don't want to lose any hope, but they were basically telling her there was no hope. She comes back to the waiting room and tells us this, and she's weeping bitterly. And I got like this, you're tough. I'm not going to take this. And seriously, I don't know if you can see it on the camera, but my tight lips, and I got down on my knees, and right in front of my sister was sitting on the couch, and I said, "This will not end in death." And she looked at me like I had talked to the doctor, like I had other information she didn't have. I was convinced this was not going to end in death. And we all went home that night expecting him to die. The next morning, I'm preparing my homily for that Sunday, and it was the reading from they were told Jesus that he's going to die, and Jesus has those words.
Wow.
This will never end in death.
Wow.
And I think the reason I spoke those words was because over all those years I heard Jesus say it, but here it was, as I read that scripture passage, I knew I was going to do this. God's so amazing. As I read that scripture passage, the emails and the texts started coming in.
A miracle.
He made it through the night, and the doctors have hope. Okay, so that would have been Saturday morning, because my sister called what would be tomorrow, right? The Friday before Lent. She called it Bad Friday instead of Good Friday because she got that bad news. Then it seemed to get better. And then all of a sudden, we get to Holy Thursday, and he speaks his first words, and where am I? What's going on? And they had him all intravenous, right? Because he couldn't eat or drink. And I asked the doctor if I could bring a eyedropper of precious blood of Jesus, and I did after my masses on Holy Thursday. And the first food that he took was the precious blood of Jesus on Holy. Darn it! I knew I was going to do this.
Wow.
Then the next morning is Good Friday. I don't want to take all the time here, but he says, whatever it takes, I'm gonna get through this. And I thought right away, that's Jesus carrying his cross, taking on the challenge that he has before him. Then we get to Holy Saturday, and as Jesus is laying in the tomb, as we're reenacting with Holy Week, he's saying, "I'll do anything to get out of here. Whatever it takes, I want to get out of here."
Coming out of
on the day that we remember that Jesus is locked in the tomb.
Wow.
Then Easter Sunday, I have all my masses, and I go up there, and I walk into the trauma center, and there's like 15 medical nurses and doctors, and they all recognize me because I got the collar, and I've been going in and out of there for the last weeks. And they all turn to me, and they got these Cheshire cat smiles on their face. And they say, "He's not here.
No
He's been
way.
raised to the rehab unit on the 4th floor or whatever. He's not here. He's been raised."
Unbelievable.
I know. And so I go up to the unit, and he's sitting up in bed. And he had to go through some rehab, but
is he alive today?
He's alive and well today. So
that's going to be a tough one to top, Doug. I don't know. You have some pretty good stories. That's that's.
I had to tell that though, because I want to give people hope.
Yes.
I want people to understand that we do have a God of miracles. And when I got tight-lipped and I says, "This will not end in death," that was belief. I was praying my guts out, "God, please." And that's the kind of prayer that he answers. I do believe that, because every time someone came up to Jesus, "Can you heal me? Do you believe I can do this?" "Yes, Lord." And then he'd heal him. And it was because of your faith that you were healed. We've got to understand this. Miracles aren't left for just Padre Pio, okay? They're for all of us. And if we have that kind of intense belief, I was not going to accept that. and he's alive today. Sorry, I broke a couple times there.
You know, and I was going to ask about that next period of time when Christ was crucified and the apostles thought it was all over and there's no hope. And they're just wondering if they're going to come after them.
Right. Yep. That you're right. That hopelessness, right?
I think that's where a lot of people feel right now. You just feel so outnumbered.
I know. Please, everyone. God is good, okay? And he might be allowing some things right now. But and so he allowed his son to carry the cross and die for us. But he always has his greater good purpose for it all. And we just got to believe. And the other teaching I get from this is that he inspires us normally. See, good parents do that. Doug, everybody, good parents will first try to win their children over by inspiring them. Okay. But if that don't work, you get in their face, right? Yeah. Because it's serious. It's a big deal. Okay. I'm first going to try to inspire you, but you got to understand this. And that's why, that's why the gospel today says, if I did that, then I'd be like, you liars, but he's being serious. This is a big deal. And so I think God's allowing this right now to kind of give us a little finger wag because we've been taking them for granted. We're weak. We're just so weak. We got to get strong.
Yeah. And we're divided too. Yeah.
What?
Yeah. And we're divided and we're distracted.
I know.
And, if he were to allow the power grid to be, struck, damaged down, if he were to allow food shortages to really shake us up, it might drive us to work together, to grow gardens, to raise animals, to get back to a simpler way. Will it be hard? Yes. Will it be a sacrifice? Yes. Will we learn to simplify and purify and detoxify and detach? Yes. Is that always a good thing? Yes. Are people going to have to learn to get along with each other on a different level? Yes. People have a hard time getting along right now when things are pretty decent, meaning that, in America, we can all pretty much go to a grocery store and get food or a convenience store and get something to drink. We're pretty blessed in this country. And if some of that gets taken away and we have to learn to actually deeply cooperate, deeply be patient, there's miracle in all of that. But I agree with Father, and God could be shaking us up just for the very fact that I need my children to start working together on another level. Because none of us are going to be able to do this alone. You can't be an island, be a prepper, go off in the woods, and you're not going to be able to survive a gang of 20 or 30 bad guys who are just looking to take whatever they want, wherever they want. You're going to need another 5, 10 people to help protect and defend. I mean, there's a whole number of things we could get into. And this is a spiritual and physical time for us all to really, really, really have a gut check moment and find out, are we Martha? Are we Mary? Are we mocking and ridiculing Christ? Are we distracted and ignore? I mean, you got a guy out there who's one of the closest confidants and advisors to Klaus Schwab, who's the head of the World Economic Forum, who's pushing the Great Reset / New World Order. And this guy, this Dr. Noah Harari, in his mid-40s, claims that we can, get this, hack a human being's mind and that free will eventually be no more. Now, we talk about this in our current podcast with Father Leitner, which, again, people go out to Rumble, type in U.S. Grace Force, all one word, and you'll find it from there. And it'll be posted on my Facebook page, and I'm sure Father will post it through his U.S. Grace Force page as well very soon. But this man believes that we don't have to follow some intelligent designer in the cloud up there. He says in a video, as he points straight up, he says, we have the IBM cloud. We have that cloud, and we can hack human beings now. And the Nazis and the KGB couldn't do that because they didn't understand biology, but we do, as if to say what? That they're going to. And he says, yes, we can hack millions of people now. We're at a very interesting turning point. And I believe this is God, like Father said, saying to his children, you got to take this seriously. You turn your back on me, I will not be mocked. God will not be mocked. Every time Israel did it in the Old Testament, God let them go through all kinds of hell and high water, even at the hands of their enemies, in order to bring them back to the truth. And that's ultimately what any suffering is about, bringing us back to the truth.
So I have to ask this question. So you had mentioned in a previous episode that the role Our Lady of Fatima had in your becoming more and more involved in the church. So with the consecration that happened on the 25th, will that negate this, or is it going to take more than that?
You know, it's interesting, Father. I'll mention this real quick, and then Father can chime in too. I'll just do this fast. We addressed this with Father Altman and also with Indira Donegan, another guest we had in a couple of weeks in a row. We covered this. I believe that even if it brings great graces, and of course, anytime we consecrate to Our Lady and come together in prayer, it's going to help. There's no question. But we are still so far down the road now. And there's a lot of, you know, when we had Father Altman on, we talked about basically this. The forgiveness can be there, the grace can be there, but there's still a lot of broken windows in the house that need to be repaired. In other words, there's a lot of atonement for all of the 65+ million that we know of that we can count. And I believe that number is much higher, because those abortion numbers coming from groups like Planned Parenthood cannot be completely trusted, of course. We know what's going on with Disney right now and the grooming of children and all this that has come out, that this has really been going on. Not to mention all the other areas of depravity and immorality that has been pushed, endorsed, encouraged. Birth control is one of the ones that I just don't understand. We almost never hear anybody preach against that. All of this, even though the consecration, does it just flip a switch and turn it around? I don't think it does, in that God, in his perfect justice, states in scripture, Matthew 5, you will be thrown into prison until you repay every last penny. There is a certain justice, and I don't know the mind of God. No one does. But we're pretty far down the line, over 100 years from when Our Lady asked for this. So if it was done the right way, if this is all accurate, if it is received by heaven, there's still going to be some damage control to clean up the mess that we have allowed to just devastate so many lives in so many areas of the world. That's my take on it. Father, what do you think?
Well, I just want to say I was taken aback in a very good way as to, well, first of all, I'll start with my diocese. The bishop at last minute, because, you know, this came down from the Vatican almost like that, decided to have a special mass and then do the consecration right after mass, and, you know, encourage people to come. Priest, the place was jammed. A huge church. It was jammed.
Heard.
Yeah, and you heard about this all over the country.
Yes,
the same story. So right there, you know, there's a lot of people that says this is needed. And then I started connecting the dots. I'm going, okay, the original message asked for this, but I don't, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think this kind of participation, you know, in union with the bishops happened with the previous ones. And so you almost wonder if part of the validity of the request doesn't come by people taking it, bishops and the people taking the request as seriously as they did. And they did this time. Doug, can you comment on that?
No, I agree. And I agree with that. I mean, where the heart is when it comes to these types of things is it has everything to do with the impact. You know, I mean, I can tell my wife I love her, tell my kids I love them, but if I'm not making eye contact, if I'm not really expressing it, then obviously something seems to be showing that it's lacking in the heart. So I agree with all of that. And I think it has been a bit of a turning point, and partly because the talk of World War III and all that we're seeing with regards to the chaos in the world in different areas, Great Reset, New World Order, and so forth. All this, I think a lot of people are taking it seriously. A key thing to remember, and I want to encourage the listeners out there, is that Our Lady had other pieces that needed to be part of this equation. We're all supposed to be praying a daily rosary, fasting, conversion.
5 First Saturdays.
5 First Saturdays, absolutely. There are key things that are not just left to the bishops, but that we are all being asked to take part in. And she doesn't say it as if, hey, here's an idea. Why don't you try this? She says, I want you to do this.
Right.
You know, in a 1957 interview with Sister Lucia, Sister told the priest who was interviewing her, I think it was Father Fluente, maybe, forgive me on the name, but 1957 interview, I believe, she said, in all 6 apparitions me and my cousins had with the Blessed Mother, not once did Mary smile. Okay, so the Fatima messages were not, hey kids, how you doing? Here's some good idea. The Fatima messages were, this is at the end of World War One. If man does not stop offending God, there's going to be a second war. It's going to be far worse than this one. World War II was a chastisement that was prophesied by the Mother of God through 3 little children 20 years before it happened. That says something very powerful to us. Saint John Paul II.
The Bolshevik Revolution broke out, I think, on the day she first started appearing.
Yeah, it started up at that point, and by October, it was in full swing. So everything was beginning throughout all of her apparitions. You're right. All the groundwork is being laid down, and then for 3 years afterwards, the Bolsheviks, through fear and terror and violence, like we haven't seen any of that in parts of the world in recent years, all of this brought about the institution of communism. And communism is not just a state government. When she talks about the error of Russia's ways, you're talking about one really key part of communism is destruction of the family through sexual immorality.
Yeah.
All right. And that was pushed even by certain laws in Russia. And those types of things that were going on then, we are now doing in America and other Western countries at will, without it being forced upon us as even teenagers and college students.
So we only have 2 minutes left, and I'm torn between you telling us about divine mercy in 2 minutes or less, or your closing blessing, or both. What do you think, Father Heilman?
Well, I'm a huge Divine Mercy fan. I started what's called the Knights of Divine Mercy, but I actually rebranded that to Holy League just to make a bigger umbrella. Anyway, but I'm a fan for a lot of reasons, but probably my biggest reason is because John Paul II was such a great fan, and so and he really John Paul II in the last half of his pontificate. This is my view of it. Really started to push things like the Divine Mercy, and I think it's because he had the backing of a very powerful influencer in Mother Angelica and EWTN at that time, because the leftist progressive bishops were in total charge up until then, and that started to change, and he started to be able to do some things that things like EWTN and others like them wouldn't allow him to get destroyed for doing. So the whole idea of this mercy that God offers us, how important is that in our time? And so I contend, and I think this is where John Paul II was, this is the devotion for our time right now. And so we've got
repair all those broken windows. There's a lot of broken windows one day. So Father, what do we need to do to take advantage of that day on Sunday, since we won't be having you on till May? What do we have to do to take advantage of the blessings that Jesus offered for Divine Mercy Sunday?
Yeah, so I think people, if you're not practicing it, if you saw the start of the show, I mean, it doesn't take long at all. I think it's probably a third of the time of a rosary. And it's just beautiful. For the sake of his salvation and mercy, and all over. It's just a beautiful mantra that you pray, and so to just one of the more ancient mantras is Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me, and that's prayed over and over and over. I think this is just God's version for our times, and so needed for our times. So please take up the devotion.
Thank you, Father. Quick blessing. You have a 30-second blessing.
All right. Father in heaven, we ask you to pour out your blessing upon everybody gathered here, and we ask a special prayer for the people of Ukraine and all the world for peace. May Almighty God bless you, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
And God bless you.